My name is Rick Aldred. I'm a peer support specialist here at 9Muses. I come from a performing arts background, and which has given me a lot of different ways to communicate with people. I mean, I do poetry classes, I do an acting class, we do music programs, but actors. I always say actors tend to be behaviorists because they're always watching people's why we do what we do. So that has been a very helpful tool. As the name implies, we're here to help people from our own life experience. I have I have anxiety and depression issues, and sometimes they've been kind of problematic in the past. And what did I learn from it? How did I get to this point? And I always tell people those things that that your weaknesses become a strength to somebody else because you've been there, and you can say, look, you can look at them in the eye and share an experience, and they know that it's valid. I do an acting class, which is really great because it helps people be aware of their moods, be aware of how their mood affects them. I do performing arts. I play the music, piano, and I vocal coach. And what people get out of that is that process of rehearsal, the discipline of rehearsal, and also getting over performance anxiety, because that's one of the worst anxieties anybody can have. And if you can get in front of people and sing and get over that, you can extrapolate that to different parts of your life. I see people being more open. I see people really having a lighter experience of life. They come here, and sometimes life is so oppressive and strangling, and they don't, if you live in that routine long enough, it's very hard to move. So if you come here and you find an interest, you start discovering yourself, discovering other things in life. And so I see more and more people exploring, and I think that's really a great thing for them to do. It has been hard. That's a constant struggle. You have to knock on every door, rattle every gate trying to get help. And you still sometimes don't get the help you need. So you got to find ways to work it yourself. I think the biggest problem is I think there's stuff out there. It's getting that access and tapping into that access that's so challenging for a lot of people, and it can be very discouraging because the process can be so long. If there was one thing I could wish for is that the line of communication would be kept open, letting people know what's happening along the way. Because I think too many people get discouraged. I would hope that people could just know what's going on along the way, give people a little bit of hope, so that they can keep going. Because once you stop, trying to gear yourself up all over again is just it becomes a really major effort. And too many people get discouraged. I really enjoy it. I mean, I really, I find that it does help me a lot. And, I've gained so much insight on myself just by being around this community. And when I like to make people laugh, and if I can make somebody laugh, that makes me feel good because I know that it's kind of lifting people's spirits, and I find that very satisfying. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of perseverance. It's always going to be a challenge to get people out of their shells and doing more things, and you have to be patient, and you have to really. It's a lot of resource intensive. It's talent intensive. You really do need people with skills to help people along. You have to know something. So, finding those people that can do that for you is a bit of a challenge, but it's possible because people have all kind of untapped talents they're not even always aware of. You're not alone. I think a big message is you're not alone. People can be here. And as I always say, I call it the Vegas principle, because if you have a bad day, well, everybody in this place has had a bad day. So that kind of response, that you're not isolated, you don't have to hide, that you can really be yourself, that can be very therapeutic. That can really help people move along. It gives you like a kind of feeling, just some release from all that stigma pressure. The crew, Chris is very supportive, but I find a lot of people who I work with are being very supportive. And when somebody's in need, or if I'm in need, or if somebody else is in need, we're very easy to take that moment and talk, give feedback to the other person, because working in the mental health community can be very stressful, and you really need to. There's ways to process, and it does help lift your spirits when it becomes kind of tiring. So, but I have coworkers in the music program. They're there for me. They help me get organized, because sometimes I'm not the most organized person. They tell me when I'm overachieving, that it's okay. You can come back down now. And but it is a very supportive environment. And you were asking me earlier about some of the things, that what you need for a program like that is really mutual support as you do this, as you work on these things. One of the biggest issues for me is transportation issues. Just how do you get from one place to another? Especially in the Florida heat, it can be very difficult for some people to get around. The program, our transportation program is not bad in this county, but it can always use improvement. I also am concerned about housing, because housing is getting so expensive. And one of the huge stressors in people's life is, how are you going to live? Where are you going to find shelter? How do you, that's just a basic need of life. So if finding a way to design shelter that works for both the community at large and the mental health community, I think there might be a way to be mutual about it. We have to work at it. It's very hard for people to understand the things that they don't understand. If I could ask Tallahassee at large, I'd say, can you kind of be open and listen to what was going on here? Because there are people who want to achieve more in their life if given the opportunity, but you got to give them the opportunity. And so if it's fun, creative funding, working together, different departments working together, whatever it takes to help people get better, our state would be better, our community would be better. And that's something I'd love to ask them someday. There are a lot of people who come here that have great stories. Two that come to mind is Skip. Skip came here with great feelings of loneliness and isolation. And he was really struggling with this. And he came in for our support groups. And he decided he wanted to do something. Our program is built to find your interests. And he decided he wanted to paint. Well, he took like a duck to water to it. Within a few months, he had his own show. And he's actually, he's becoming more and more, and now he's giving back to the community, being on the board of directors, going out and doing outreach, and you could see on his face that he's lighter, that he feels better. He'll tell you all the time, I've never felt like this before in my life, And the other one, Kathy. Kathy took 3 times to get to this door. She drove up to the door, tried to come in, could not come in. Second time, looked through the door, couldn't do it. Third time, she actually tried to get in, but she got sick. She had to go to a restroom, got sick, and finally she got in the door. Within 2 weeks, she was teaching sewing to people in the community. She became more and more involved. And again, she's another person, you could see that the isolation was broken and that she was actually merging into this other community, something that she hadn't done for years. She was living just in her house by herself for a long time. So that's the beauty of it. That's just, when you see people do that, become lighter and happier. after such hard, challenging times in their lives. That makes the whole thing worth it. People who are on disability, who live on disability, it's not easy. It's very confining. Nobody. You hear these stories of people who take a disadvantage. Take overly. You hear stories about people who abuse the system, but most people live a very confining, tight life that doesn't really give them much in the way of liberties. And that creates a massive amount of loneliness. And if I can let the community know, the state at large, is that you have the power to change somebody from being lonely. And if you've ever been lonely yourself, when you don't feel like you have any place to go to, that pain. Imagine people who live with it all the time. So if there's one thing you can empathize with, is understanding that loneliness is very pervasive in the mental health community, and it really needs people's help to get people out.